Occasionally, just occasionally, as a sports writer you feel called upon to do more than enjoy the privileges of witnessing great events and are offered the chance to do something good. And for greater good, Jimmy Armfield gave this newspaper, that chance. It happened just over 10 years ago when I was interviewing him for these pages at his home in Blackpool. He had not long finished a 6-month spell of chemo and radiotherapy for cancer. Where was his World Cup 1966 medal? I wondered. Only the fated, sainted 11 who played in the final had received them, it turned out. Not the backup squad. Soon, I was on the phone to Richard Caborn, then the sports minister. Soon he was on the phone to FIFA and Sepp Blatter, who would issue one of his less remembered but most honorable of edicts. All surviving members of World Cup winning backup squads from 1930 onwards would receive medals. England's were presented in 2009 by then Prime Minister Gordon Brown at a Downing Street reception. Justice had finally been done, he said. My boyhood hero Jimmy Greaves, not one for nostalgia, may have been nonchalant about it. My hero as a man, Jimmy Armfield, was proud as punch. Before then, Jimmy had been a colleague in press boxes. His warm tones and wise words illuminating dark winter afternoons for Radio 5 Live. After that day, he became a firm friend and we would speak regularly, even through his final year of 2017. Each time I rang, he would tell of his latest operation. There were 5 last year, with cancer spreading around his head and neck, as well as a stroke. The surgery was brutal, but how enviably bravely he endured it. I'm never bored, he said once. How can I be when I've got so much going wrong? Then he would ask how my wife's cancer was, and mine. After that, it was into his football, of games he had seen, players he liked. He had inimitable takes on events. These Qataris knew what they were doing with money, he said. That mind-boggling Neymar world record fee would be paid in installments. There would be contra deals. Despite the stoicism, there would be down days. I'm a bloody mess, he told me in late summer. Can't play the piano, can't read. A real bloody mess. I get a bit dispirited. Still, football's back soon, isn't it? I told him I would be up to see him. It's a long way, he would say, or wait till the weather gets better. The truth was, he didn't really want visitors. His pride didn't want people to see him so emasculated. I think, too, thoughtfully but misguidedly, he did not want my memories of him, all our memories of him, to be sullied. The last time I spoke to him a few weeks ago, he was lamenting a problem with the gas stove and a broken gas fire. He was not sleeping but seemed more concerned about all this diving going on in football. I don't like it. The outpouring of sentiment last week at his passing has told of deeper truths about the modern game. His broadcasting style was an antidote to some of today's shouty shower. He was a one-club man who could have gone for money to win trophies with Manchester United. But Blackpool manager Joe Smith refused Matt Busby the fullback's services a few months before Munich. Fate had intervened and Jimmy never resented it. This was the same Joe Smith who, on the Friday before Jimmy's home debut at the age of 19, refused him 2 complimentary tickets for his parents. If your mum and dad won't pay to see you play, son, said Smith, then who will? Jimmy always smiled at the memory, worrying on his cycle home about telling his mom and dad they would have to pay. The tributes, too, told of a nostalgia for what seemed simpler, more wholesome sporting times, recalling James Earl Jones in Field of Dreams. The memories will be so thick, they'll have to brush them away from their faces, he said. Noting too of sports watchers, it is money they have and peace they lack. Jimmy, though, was never stuck in the past. There's been so many improvements but my generation can always find fault, he said. My father did when I was a player. When I asked him if he would like to play nowadays, his answer did not evoke players on £500,000 a week. It would be interesting, he said. Modern tactics and training, and every pitch like the first game of August. I'd love that. A few years ago, to mark 50 years since 1966, I suggested him for a knighthood. It was not just for services to football, broadcasting and journalism, great as they were through his work for the FA, notably helping appoint Terry Venables ahead of Euro '96. and PFA, but also for the charity and community work. He was on the board of the hospital that treated him, the Victoria. He was a Sheriff of Lancashire, President of the Regional Age Concern, member of Blackburn Cathedral Council, and his local church organist. I never told him of the submission. He would have been embarrassed. Shockingly, we heard nothing back. Still, he had his CBE, the World Cup gong he cherished. While Sir Jimmy would have suited him, it would not have inflated him. In the end, it's family that matter, he told me. Those who'll be with you when you go. He reminded us all. As James Earl Jones also said, of all that once was good. He reminded me, too, of Mark Antony's final tribute to Brutus and Julius Caesar, his life was gentle,